Hi students. So this is the last part of the watercolor spiral. This is the part of the video where you will be adding some pen, and you'll be using ink with hatches and then cross hatches, scumbling or scribbling, and then stippling. Okay? So you have your paper like this, and it is nice and dry. And I have a few different kinds of pens here. I have a Sharpie art pen. That's the one that I put in the kit. You have, and I have some micron pens here as well that I might play around with. These are quite popular, so you might have some lying around already, and they act almost exactly the same. As you can see, the tips are very similar. I'm not sure if that's going to show up in the video. The tips are very, very similar, and they do almost the same thing. So I'm going to start with my Sharpie art pen, and you can see I've got a few hatches here already, but you want to play around with the angle that you're holding your pen and find a way that you can easily put down hatch marks, which are lines. So make yourself a little machine. I'm going to try to make a gradient, and in this particular one I'm going to try to make the center quite dark. So that means lots of hatch marks, and then fade out to the edge with just hatch marks, and that means they're just lines going one way. Now cross hatch marks mean that you're going to have lines going multiple ways. So play around with how you can make those lines, and play around with how you can make them in a speedy way that doesn't feel as though it is messy. Okay, sometimes people make extremely messy things, and it doesn't, messy can be really great. Messy can really, really work. But sometimes messy does not work very well at all. So just keep that in mind. And I think at the moment that's all I'll say about that, because if I went into why messy can work and not work, I might I might take up too much of our time. So in the center, it's going to be more dark than it is other places, and that just means that I'm overlapping my hatch marks more than I am other places. So mine are kind of messy because I'm going quite quickly, but if I were to slow down a little bit, I think I'd end up with something a little more neat and tidy, but that's okay. That's okay. I would say on my example here, things were really quite neat and quite tidy. But in the end, it often feels, I don't know, it's a very tiny little point, so it's easy to kind of go overboard, but you also don't want to be thinking about every line that you make. Like if I were to go that slow, it would just take too long. So next I'm going to go to what we all know is my favorite, and that's scumbling or scribbling. And those are irregular lines. Find a way that you're going to be comfortable. I love scumbling so that the lines are very irregular. It's not little spirally scribbles, but that they're just irregular, very, very, very irregular lines. And there's going to be some sort of gradient, so in the center the lines are closer together and there are more of them, and then as they go out to the sides there are less lines and farther apart. And having that transition, that gradual transition, is magical. And you can definitely have the different ones overlapping, because that can, it kind of helps you see how you can use all of these methods at the same time. Oh, same one. So the last one is stippling. And stippling is the one that people love to look at, but they absolutely hate to do, okay? And so it can be, sometimes people love the look of stippling so much that they think, oh, I'm gonna do a whole drawing in stippling. Oops, I have a cat who hopefully will just walk on by. Can you see his paw? Yeah. Come on, dude. My apologies for the cats. I have two cats who will kill each other if they're in the same room. So one of them always needs to be in here. And this one is the better one. The other one will be quite destructive and really in the way. Hi, dude. You want to go through? Come on. Come on, dude. Okay. And so the stippling is just bouncing your pen very gently on the paper. And the cat went away. So nice. I had to start this video over like 4 times because he kept walking in right at the beginning. And I was like, this time, even if you walk through, I'm going to keep on going. So that is stippling. I'm not going to go too far with that. So with the micron pens, they're almost the same thing. And they work in the same way. I find that they have an easier glide to them. And I enjoy using them more. I don't see that the outcome is too different. This is a much smaller pen, so that's quite different. Okay, so the last thing that I want to mention with this part of the drawing is that using a micron pen or a Sharpie pen on top of watercolor shouldn't gum up your pen or ruin it. Using it on top of pencil should be totally fine, but don't use it on top of charcoal. That just will not work. The pen will get gummed up with the charcoal. The charcoal will just get into the pen and onto the pen, and the marks won't go down on the paper, and you'll ruin your pen. If your watercolor is super duper saturated, it might, yeah, it kind of depends on the watercolor, but I don't think it'll do much. Let's try. So on this part, I'll add a little bit of, I'm not going to add too much, I'm just going to add a little bit. It seemed to work just fine, but it doesn't, yeah, it seems to work pretty well. See, this is an experiment for me as well. So at the end, we've got this watercolor spiral. We've played around with some of the shapes. Feel free to play around a little bit more. This is a quite involved activity, but I think you've had a chance to use so many different techniques that I think it's quite useful. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much. Have a great day.